In your garden, there's actually the same bee every morning. It lands next to a lavender plant, then approaches exactly where you're standing, waits a bit, and then retreats. Yesterday, you entered through a different door, and that bee deviated from its usual route and found you. Actually, this isn't an ordinary visitor. That bee can actually remember you. Perhaps tonight, while you're lying in your house, you'll learn that the bees in your garden code light, smell, and faces separately. You'll realize that those animals we think are colorblind can actually distinguish human faces from each other. And you'll discover that a brain smaller than a grain of rice can almost compete with monkeys in some memory tests. Welcome back to the Bees Around Us channel. Before we move on to the video, I want you to subscribe, because at the end of this video, our final topic will be about how bee memory transforms collective intelligence. I don't want you to leave without hearing this fact. So, if you're ready, let's start with our first point. 1. Bees can remember flowers, roots, and even time. If you see any worker bee in your garden or outside starting from the same lavender field and following the same path every day, it's no coincidence. Research shows that worker bees can individually encode the location of hundreds of flowers when they produce nectar, and which route requires the least energy. With a brain about the size of a cartilage, they can scan a 3-kilometer area like a map. This is made possible by neuronal structures similar to place cells in the human brain. The bee processes space not as an abstract and emotional entity as we imagine, but as a real coordinate system. But of course, this map also has a time dimension. Lavender starts producing nectar at 8 a.m. and dries up in the afternoon. Bees know this. Many studies show that bees learn flower types along with their blooming times and plan their daily flight schedule accordingly. This is not a random search, as we might think. It's a time-locked and optimized, regular schedule. Moreover, this memory is flexible. If a flower wilts and the wind changes direction, the bee updates its route. So it's not something fixed as we think. It doesn't erase what it has learned, it only overwrites it. If you add a new flower field to your garden, it may take a few days for the bees to abandon their old habits. Because for them, learning doesn't mean erasing and rewriting. It means adding a new layer to the existing map and introducing new things. 2. Bees memorize scents and danger. If a bee is irritated, it releases alarm pheromones from its forehead. This signal conveys the message, "Danger is right here," to the rest of the hive. But this is not just an instant warning. Some experiments show that worker bees can remember dangerous experiences associated with certain scents hours or even days later. What is even more striking is this. This process happens at the individual level. That is, a bee that experiences a danger simultaneously with the scent of lavender, when it encounters that scent again in the following days, remembers and activates its past experience. This process, which we call conditioned learning, is a capability normally attributed to much more advanced nervous systems. For a cartilage-sized brain to be able to do this is similar to running a flight simulation with a calculator. Moreover, when you approach the hive, the bees already classify you. Is this a flower, a threat, or a neutral entity? And this classification remains in their memory. If you approach the hive one day with angry and sudden movements, that experience is not erased. The bees don't forget it. But the good news is, positive experiences work the same way. A relationship established with patience and consistency is recognized by the hive. 3. Bees learn human faces individually. Of course, this claim sounds unbelievable when first heard, but it is backed by the findings of real experiments. Bee scientists showed bees human faces in photographs and paired them with a sugar reward. The result was astonishing. The bees were able to correctly identify the rewarded face from faces they had never seen before, with a success rate of 70 to 80%. Moreover, this success continued in black and white photographs and under different lighting conditions. I also want to point out that when we say face recognition here, we're not talking about conscious identification like humans do. Bees most likely process the face as a whole, much like a complex floral pattern. But the result is the same. They can distinguish between different human faces and retain this distinction in their memory for hours. In addition, someone who provides a positive experience to the hive will be met with fewer stimuli over time. The opposite is also true. A face associated with a bad memory will be recognized again before that memory is erased. The bees don't see you. They remember you. 4. Memory transmitted through dances creates an intergenerational accumulation of knowledge. In general, there is a well-known way for worker bees to transfer the nectar source they find to their hive: the vibration dance. But when you think in detail about what this dance transmits, the matter takes on a much more interesting dimension. The bee doesn't just say, "There's a flower over there." It simultaneously codes the angle relative to the sun, the distance to the target, and the quality of the source. The information coming from one bee's brain is written into the brains of dozens of bees simultaneously through the dance. Looking at the event from a different angle, this is something different from individual learning, collective memory transfer, and this transfer continues for generations. Research shows that bees can carry certain behaviors and decision-making mechanisms to new hives through swarming. So, the hive in your garden still knows what grew in that area perhaps a few generations ago. Which route is safe? Essentially, this is what distinguishes a hive from a simple animal colony. A hive doesn't have the memory of a single organism. It has a historical memory passed down from generation to generation. That honeycomb holds something much older than you think. 5. The hive learns and presents its decisions as an independent intelligence. Here, I would especially like to say that. So far, we have talked about the memory of individual bees, but the last step completely changes the scale. When researchers studied the collective decision-making process of bees in a hive, they discovered that this process has structural similarities to the neural networks in the human brain. Just as individual neurons fire to produce a thought, individual bees reach a common conclusion by dancing, vibrating, and silencing each other. Now, the critical point in this point is that this is most clearly revealed in the search for a new nest. Scout bees explore different locations and return to their hive, conveying the quality of each place with their dance. The bee that finds a better spot dances longer and more energetically. This competition between rival candidates continues until an overwhelming majority is achieved. Then the hive acts as one body. Now, generally speaking, this is what happens. No single bee can make this decision alone. None of them have access to all the information. But the process produced by 10,000 of them together performs a calculation far beyond their individual capacities. We call this hive intelligence. And this intelligence is the purest collective form of memory, carrying information together that no one can carry alone. The truth is, that hive in your garden is not a single entity. It is an organism where thousands of memories merge, that has a history, that learns and makes decisions. And that bee that lands next to the lavender every morning is only a small part of it. In fact, that bee is still in your garden. Perhaps right now it is in the hive, processing the traces of the day. Which flower is full? Who is approaching? What is safe? When we opened this video, we asked, do bees remember? Now we know that the question was wrongly formulated. The right question is, how much do bees remember? The answer: the route, the scent, the face, the danger, the information conveyed through dance, and perhaps even how many seasons this hive has spent in your garden. It's not the size of the brain that matters, but the structure. And with that structure, that tiny creature carries a richer inner world than many larger animals. Now, I'd like to ask you, have you noticed that the bees in your garden behave differently towards you, approaching you, or keeping their distance? Tell us in the comments, because these observations are more meaningful than you might think. We'll be unveiling a new secret together in the next video. See you soon.